The church bells had barely faded when Waverly Abrams' world collapsed with a single line of text. She stood in the vestibule, bouquet trembling in her hand, her white dress pooling at her feet, as her phone screen seared into her vision. "You're fired. Consider it my gift to you." Signed by Tate Lawson, her new supervisor and tormentor for the past 3 months. The timing was deliberate, cruel, almost theatrical. Only moments earlier she had said "I do" to the love of her life, Karen. Now the air, still heavy with roses and lilies, felt suffocating. Voices of celebration floated from the sanctuary behind her. Laughter, applause, clinking glasses. Yet all she could hear was the pounding of her own pulse. Karen appeared beside her, steady as always. He read the message without flinching, then surprised her with a calm smile. He kissed her hands and whispered, "Check your messages later. Today belongs to us." She wanted to scream, to rage against the injustice. She had just lost her position as lead project manager at Crescent Design Studio, the most prestigious firm in the city, the role she had poured every ounce of herself into. 2 years of relentless work, sleepless nights, and meticulous dedication, destroyed with a single message. And yet, Karen's eyes carried something more than calm. They carried certainty. Against her instincts, she allowed him to slip the phone into the maid of honor's purse, and together they stepped forward. The grand doors opened, sunlight burst in, petals rained down, and Waverly smiled through the storm breaking inside her chest. For a moment, the world believed nothing was wrong. Waverly had never been one to crumble easily. Her life had taught her resilience. Her colleagues called her the database because she remembered every detail, every client preference, every line of a blueprint. Organization wasn't just a habit, it was her nature. Even her grocery lists were color-coded. That gift for precision had been tested young. When her father suffered a stroke during her first year of college, she nearly abandoned her studies to support her mother. Instead, she doubled her course load, worked nights at a printing shop, and still graduated with honors. Her degree in architectural project management came decorated with minors in computer systems and urban planning, a rare combination of structure and creativity. Gregory Lawson had noticed. Unlike most executives who cared only about profit, Gregory valued vision. He'd seen in Waverly not just an employee, but a solution. He hired her to modernize Crescent's operations, and she exceeded even his expectations. She designed a proprietary system from the ground up, one that tracked every version of every plan, every client request, every budget and permit. Projects finished 30% faster. Clients were happier. Gregory once called her the best investment Crescent ever made. For 2 years, she thrived. Until Tate. Gregory's only son, 32 years old and aimless, had stumbled through 3 departments in the company, never lasting long. He had his father's broad-shouldered stance and commanding jaw, but none of his judgment. When Gregory announced his semi-retirement, he placed Tate as director of Waverly's department. Overnight, everything changed. Where Gregory invited her ideas, Tate excluded her from meetings. Where Gregory praised her, Tate stole credit. When she scheduled training sessions to teach others her system, Tate canceled them as wasteful. Every day grew heavier, suffocating, as if her very presence threatened his fragile pride. It was during those months that she met Karen. At the city permit office, he was the opposite of Tate, measured, thorough, respectful. He treated blueprints like promises, reading them carefully, questioning inconsistencies. Waverly admired his diligence immediately. Conversations at his counter turned into coffee breaks. Coffee became dinner, and soon he became her refuge, the steady hand she clung to when Crescent grew unbearable. She hadn't known then what he was noticing. Tate's submissions contained alterations, cheap materials swapped for approved ones, safety features erased. Karen documented everything in silence, waiting for the right time. 2 months into their relationship, he proposed. They planned their wedding quickly, not out of extravagance, but necessity. Waverly felt her time at Crescent was running short. She expected Tate might eventually force her out. She never imagined he'd do it on her wedding day. When the message came, it should have shattered her. Instead, underneath the shock, something strange stirred. Power. For 2 years, she had built a system only she truly understood. Every function, every shortcut, every safeguard was second nature to her, but indecipherable to anyone else without training. Training Tate had blocked at every turn. With a single reckless message, he had not just dismissed her, he had paralyzed the company. As the reception unfolded, she slipped away to the bridal suite. There, in silence, she listened to Gregory Lawson's voicemails. His usually commanding voice was cracked with panic. "Waverly, this is Gregory. Call me immediately. Tate had no authority to fire you. The downtown project deadline is Monday, and no one can access your system." 6 more messages followed, each more desperate. "The team can't find the updated renderings. Tate doesn't know the passwords. We're at a standstill." His final words trembled. "Please, the Westside development team is threatening to walk. You're the only one who can save this." Waverly sat on the velvet sofa, her gown spilling. The morning after the wedding, Waverly woke in the soft glow of dawn with Karen's arm draped over her waist and her phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand. For a fleeting second, she thought it was a dream, that Tate's venomous message had been a cruel trick her mind had conjured. But the screen confirmed reality. Over 100 missed calls, most from Crescent's office lines, some from colleagues, and 17 from Gregory Lawson himself. Each new vibration was a reminder of the chaos unraveling back at Crescent, and each time she let it buzz into silence. Karen stirred beside her, his breath warm against her shoulder. "Ignore it," he murmured. "Today's ours." And she did. They boarded their flight to Belize later that morning, leaving behind the steel-gray skyline of the city for stretches of golden beach and turquoise water. The honeymoon unfolded in a haze of sunlit mornings and balmy evenings, coconuts cracked open by hand, laughter carried by the ocean breeze. Yet through it all, her phone remained a constant presence, vibrating like a caged insect in her bag. By the 3rd day, the voicemails had shifted tone. Gregory's once firm voice now sounded frayed, breaking under the strain. "Waverly, please. I'll triple your salary if you come back. Tate was wrong. The downtown project is slipping through our fingers. Without your system, we're blind." She played the message on speaker as Karen and she lounged beneath a palm tree, their feet buried in sand. Karen chuckled softly when she deleted it without hesitation. "You're stronger than I expected," he said. She tilted her head, amused. "Stronger or pettier?" "Neither. Smarter. You're not chasing validation anymore. You're waiting for the world to realize how much it lost the moment Tate hit send." 2 days later came another offer, partial ownership in Crescent. A desperate carrot dangled by a man watching his empire fracture. Waverly listened, then pressed delete. It wasn't money she wanted. It was respect, something Tate had stripped away and Gregory had failed to protect. No number could buy that back. Karen seemed to understand without her saying a word. He had always seen beneath the surface. On their last evening in Belize, as the sun painted the horizon in molten gold, Karen turned to her, his tone thoughtful. "There's something else," he said. "The city's consulting team has a vacancy. They're looking for someone who understands submissions from both sides, the firms and the regulators. Someone who can design guidelines to prevent exactly the kind of corner-cutting Tate was doing." Waverly blinked at him, her heart quickening. "You mean me?" He nodded. "You're the only one I know who could bridge that gap. Think about it. Instead of working in one company, you'd shape the entire industry. Firms would have no choice but to play by the rules you set." The idea took root instantly, like a seed dropped on fertile ground. By the time their plane landed back home, she was sketching out a business plan on her tablet. Within 3 days, Precision Protocol Consulting was born, its name chosen deliberately. Precise systems, strict protocols, no shortcuts tolerated. Her first client was the city planning department itself, who leapt at the chance to have an insider create checks to safeguard against manipulation. The ink had barely dried on the contract when Gregory Lawson called again. This time, she answered. "Waverly, thank God, we're drowning. The downtown project has collapsed. Clients are walking. Name your price." She listened in silence, then said calmly, "I'm no longer available for employment. I've started my own firm." "Then we'll hire your firm," he cried. "Whatever you're charging, we'll pay it." She let the silence hang for a moment, then replied, "My first client is the city. I'm building new verification protocols. Anything Crescent submits will be under my microscope." The sharp inhale on the other end told her he understood. His son's alterations would not survive the scrutiny. She ended the call with a sense of finality, her hand steady as she set the phone down. For the first time since Tate's message, she felt free. The city wasted no time unleashing her expertise. Waverly dove into the audit of past submissions, peeling back layers of documentation, and what she found confirmed Karen's warnings. Pages of Crescent's plans bore Tate's fingerprints. Load-bearing walls reduced, cheaper materials swapped in, safety features stripped out. Each revelation chilled her. Had these alterations passed unnoticed, lives could have been at risk. But now, every one of those changes was evidence. The city halted the downtown project immediately and reassigned it to a competing firm. Tate's name spread through the industry like wildfire, not as the heir apparent, but as the man who had jeopardized millions and endangered lives. His professional license was suspended pending review. Crescent's reputation, built carefully over 30 years, toppled in weeks. Clients fled, projects stalled, and the firm bled money it couldn't afford to lose. Word reached Waverly that Gregory had suffered a minor heart attack under the stress. Despite her anger, she felt no triumph in that news. Gregory had once been her mentor, the man who recognized her value when few others did. But his blind loyalty to his son had poisoned everything. Precision Protocol, meanwhile, thrived. Within 6 months, Waverly had secured contracts with 3 municipal governments. Her expertise became the gold standard for compliance, her systems adopted as models by regulators across the region. She hired staff, built a sleek office in the heart of the city, and grew her vision into a force that no single firm could ignore. Karen, steadfast and supportive, received his own promotion at the permit office for exposing Crescent's misconduct. Together, they bought their first home, a fixer-upper with cracked walls but solid bones, much like Waverly herself. They spent weekends painting, sanding floors, laughing at their shared inexperience with power tools. For the first time, her life felt like her own, built on foundations no one else could tamper with. Then, 1 year to the day after her wedding, a thick cream envelope arrived at her office. Inside was a handwritten letter. The familiar signature at the bottom made her chest tighten. Gregory Lawson. Dear Waverly, some debts can never be fully repaid, but acknowledgement is the beginning of atonement. I have spent this past year rebuilding what my son and my negligence destroyed. Tate has completed an ethics program and now works only in a junior position. Crescent has new leadership, new systems, new processes. We are not who we once were. I am writing to ask if you could consider meeting with me, not to return, but to consult, to ensure we never fail the public trust again. Whether you accept or decline, know that my respect for you has only grown. You were right to stand your ground. With regret and admiration, Gregory Lawson. Waverly read the letter 3 times, her fingers tracing the grooves of his handwriting. It was not an apology exactly, but something close. That night, she showed it to Karen over dinner. He studied it silently, then asked, "What would be your purpose in going? Closure? Vindication? Curiosity?" She thought for a long moment. All of those, and maybe to see if change is truly When Waverly arrived at Crescent's offices, the building felt both familiar and foreign. A year had passed since she last walked those hallways, yet the energy had shifted. The receptionist was new, the faces at workstations unfamiliar, and screens glowed with software she didn't recognize. She caught glimpses of processes running more smoothly than before, evidence that at least some of Gregory's words were true. The past had been razed, and something new was being built in its place. The receptionist greeted her with unusual respect, almost reverence. "Miss Abrams, Mr. Lawson is waiting in the main conference room." Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor as she followed the corridor. Each step felt like retracing old scars. She remembered the countless nights she had worked late here, the way her system had once been the nervous system of the entire company, and she remembered the text message that had ended it all. At the open conference room door, she paused. Gregory was there, older, his once commanding posture diminished. Sitting beside him was Tate. He looked thinner, paler, his arrogance dimmed into something she could almost mistake for humility. Gregory rose at once, extending his hand. "Waverly, thank you for coming." His handshake was firm, but the lines around his eyes spoke of sleepless nights and too many regrets. Tate remained seated, gaze fixed on the table. Waverly took a chair across from them. Her voice was even. "Your letter was unexpected." Gregory inclined his head, "As was the education of this past year, but necessary." His eyes flicked toward his son. "Tate has something to say." Tate finally looked up, and Waverly was startled by the absence of the old gleam of superiority. His eyes carried something else now. Shame. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What I did was unprofessional, vindictive, and dangerous. There's no excuse." The words sounded rehearsed, but his face betrayed something more. He looked like a man carrying the weight of his own disgrace. Waverly's tone was cool. "Apology noted. Neither acceptance nor forgiveness, just acknowledgement." Gregory cleared his throat. "There's more." He slid a folder across the table. "This company has been rebuilt from the ground up. New safety protocols, new review processes, new leadership. Tate is no longer in management. He's starting over, learning properly this time. We want you to review our new systems to ensure we've truly changed." Waverly opened the folder. The documents were thorough, detailed. It was more progress than she'd expected. Nestled among them was a consultant contract, offering a generous fee for her oversight. Before she could speak, Tate abruptly stood. "There's something else." He left the room and returned moments later with a smaller envelope and a USB drive. He placed both before her with trembling hands. She opened the envelope first. Inside was a check, written for the exact cost of her wedding. Every flower, every chair, every arrangement, down to the penny. She froze. "How did you know this figure?" Gregory's voice was quiet. "Your planner is a cousin's friend. I asked for the total. I wanted it precise." Tate added, "Consider it the gift I pretended to give you when I fired you. I had no right then. But maybe this can make amends." Anger flared hot in Waverly's chest. Did they truly think money could erase what he had done? Before she could reply, Tate pushed the small USB drive toward her. "And this belongs to you. It's your entire system. All the passwords, all the access points. We tried to replicate it, but it never worked the same without you. Take it, or delete it. It's yours." For a long moment, Waverly stared at the tiny drive resting against her fingers. It was more than code. It was 2 years of her life condensed into a sliver of metal and plastic. A tool that had once been used as a weapon against her was now being returned in surrender. She saw the two men before her, one broken by the consequences of misplaced loyalty,
the other stripped of arrogance by failure. And she realized something profound about revenge. Sometimes it required no action at all. Sometimes the world delivered it for you. She closed the folder and rose to her feet. "I'll review your proposals," she said calmly. "My fee will be triple your offer, paid in advance. My team will require complete access and full transparency." Gregory nodded immediately. "Agreed." Waverly's gaze shifted to Tate. "And one more condition. You will personally complete every training module I assign. No exceptions. You'll learn every aspect of proper management, compliance, and ethics until you can teach them yourself." Color drained from Tate's face, but he nodded. "Yes, I understand." Waverly collected the folder, leaving the check untouched on the table. She paused at the door. "Gregory, the money is not necessary. Seeing your son learn integrity will be gift enough." With that, she walked out, head held high. That evening, over dinner, she recounted the meeting to Karen. He listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think they're sincere?" She hesitated. "I think they're desperate, but desperation can be fertile soil for change." Karen nodded slowly. "And what do you want to do?" She looked down at her glass of wine, considering. "I want to see if change is possible. Not for their sake, for the industry's. Crescent was once a model firm. If it can be rebuilt with integrity, maybe it can serve as an example." Days later, news broke of Crescent's competitor, the firm that had inherited the downtown project. They were under investigation for bribery, accused of paying officials to fast-track approvals despite serious design flaws. Waverly's blood ran cold. If they collapsed, the downtown project would again be in limbo, with millions of dollars and countless jobs at stake. Karen's brow furrowed. Maybe this is why Gregory reached out now. He must have known the investigation was coming. He's positioning Crescent to reclaim the project. Waverly set her fork down, appetite gone. Once again, she was being courted not just out of respect, but out of strategy. "What are you going to do?" Karen asked softly. That night she barely slept, tossing and turning, replaying the meeting in her mind. Was Tate's humility real? Was Gregory's contrition genuine? And more importantly, what did she want her role to be in what came next? By morning, clarity came. She called Gregory at 7 sharp. "I've reconsidered your offer." Her silence was thick with disappointment. "I'm not interested in consulting for Crescent." A pause. "I understand. However, I am interested in a partnership." His breath caught. "A partnership?" "My firm oversees all project management and compliance. Crescent handles design and construction. We operate as separate entities but present as partners. I keep my independence, you rebuild your credibility, and clients get both innovation and accountability." Gregory's hesitation was brief. "And Tate?" "He works for you, not for me. But anything he touches goes through triple verification by my team. No exceptions." Gregory murmured, "I'll need to discuss this with the board." "You have 24 hours, I replied coolly. "After that, I'll present my own proposal to the city." She ended the call, her chest rising with something she hadn't felt in years: absolute control of her future. 23 hours later, Gregory called back. "The board has approved. 3-year minimum commitment with review metrics we agree on in advance." "Done," Waverly said. And with that, Precision Protocol Consulting had its largest client. When the state removed Crescent's competitor from the downtown project 2 weeks later, the partnership was ready. Together, they presented updated plans with enhanced safety features and rigorous compliance measures. The city awarded them the contract, citing their unusual but innovative model as a blueprint for accountability. The press hailed it as a new era for architecture.
The downtown project site buzzed with life, cranes swinging across the skyline, steel frames climbing higher each day, workers shouting instructions through the hum of machinery. It was here, 3 months into the partnership, that Waverly arrived early one morning for an inspection. To her surprise, Tate was already there, crouched beside freshly poured concrete, clipboard in hand, cross-checking specifications against approved plans. She approached quietly, observing. His concentration was unfeigned, his pen scratching deliberate notes in the margins. When he noticed her, he straightened quickly. "Good morning." She tilted her head. "You don't have to personally verify pores. That's what site engineers are for." His shoulders stiffened, but he met her gaze without defiance. "I know, but if I don't learn every aspect from the ground up, I'll never understand the whole picture. This is how I make sure I don't repeat my mistakes." She studied him, searching for the arrogance that once defined him. It wasn't there. Instead, his posture carried the weight of someone rebuilding brick by brick. After a moment, she asked quietly, "Why did you do it? Why fire me on my wedding day?" The question hung in the crisp morning air. Tate swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the clipboard. "Because I knew you were right about everything. The training sessions, the safety protocols, the systems. Everyone respected you. Even my father respected you more than me. I hated it. I wanted to hurt you at your most vulnerable moment, to take back control. But all I did was destroy it." His voice cracked. "I destroyed the mentorship I could have had, the trust, the respect, and I destroyed myself in the process." His words were not rehearsed this time. They rang raw and jagged with truth. Waverly felt a strange mix of pity and resolve. You can't undo the past, but if you mean what you say, you can become the kind of professional who puts integrity above ego. That's the only way forward. His eyes lifted, tentative hope flickering in them. "And if I do, could you ever forgive me?" She shook her head slightly. "Forgiveness isn't something you're owed. It's earned over time, through consistent actions, not words. Show me who you're becoming, not who you regret being." He nodded, determination replacing shame. "I can do that. I will do that." She handed him the pour report. "Then start here. Show me what you found." For the next hour, they walked the site together, reviewing specifications. Tate asked sharp, thoughtful questions. He didn't just memorize protocols, he sought to understand their logic. And for the first time, Waverly glimpsed what he could become if guided by the right compass. Over the following months, Tate's transformation became evident. The man who once sabotaged training sessions now ran them himself. He spoke not with bluster, but with clarity, making sure every junior understood not just the how, but the why. Site engineers reported his diligence, noting his insistence on triple verification even when it slowed progress. The arrogance had been carved away, leaving a humility that made it easier to respect. 6 months into the project, Waverly received an unexpected visitor at her office. Raina, her former assistant, who had remained with Crescent. She wasted no time with pleasantries. "Gregory wants to promote Tate," she said, her tone testing. Waverly arched a brow. "To what?" "Assistant project manager. He's completed every training module with perfect scores. His reports are exemplary. The team respects him now." Waverly leaned back, considering. "And what do you think?" Raina's eyes softened. "I think he's changed. Responsibility might solidify that change." Waverly tapped her pen thoughtfully. "Tell Gregory I'll support the promotion, under one condition. Tate handles the upcoming community presentation alone. If he can face the people whose trust he once endangered, then he'll have earned it." The community presentation was a pivotal moment. Neighborhood residents, many skeptical after years of stalled promises, gathered at the local center to hear updates.
Waverly attended incognito, sitting in the back row, arms folded. When Tate stepped to the podium, I saw a flicker of nerves cross his face. The old Tate would have masked it with arrogance. This one acknowledged it openly. "Good evening. I'm Tate Lawson, Assistant Project Coordinator. Some of you may remember when this project stalled last year. That failure was partly due to my mistakes. I cut corners. I compromised safety. I violated your trust. And I'm here to tell you I will never do that again." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. His candor was unexpected, disarming. He went on to outline progress, explaining how community feedback had shaped design changes. He answered tough questions with honesty, even admitting several times, "I don't know, but I'll find out and personally get back to you." By the end, the mood had shifted from hostility to cautious optimism. Residents approached him afterwards, not with anger, but with curiosity. He stayed, answering each with patience. Waverly slipped out quietly, satisfied. The next day, she called Gregory. "I heard Tate did well yesterday," he said immediately. "He did. I was there." "And your verdict?" She paused, weighing her words. "I support the promotion. He's earned it. But remember, trust is rebuilt in small, consistent actions, not words." Gregory's relief was audible. "We understand. Thank you, Waverly." From then on, Tate's path was steady, deliberate. He worked harder than anyone, never asking for shortcuts. And to her surprise, Waverly began to see not just atonement, but potential. Meanwhile, Precision Protocol thrived. Their partnership model with Crescent became a national headline, hailed as a new standard for accountability. Municipalities across the country expressed interest in adopting similar systems. Her firm grew to 15 employees, each trained in her methods, each a sentinel against corruption and carelessness. One evening, walking with Karen past the glowing skeleton of the downtown project, Waverly reflected on how far she had come. The skyline glittering, cranes silhouetted against a fading sunset. Karen squeezed her hand. "Are you happy with how it turned out?" She considered carefully. "I'm satisfied. Not because Crescent suffered, but because change happened. The company is safer, the buildings are stronger, the community will benefit. And Tate, he's becoming someone his position deserves." Karen smiled. "When you showed me that text on our wedding day, I never imagined this outcome. I thought you'd want scorched earth." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Maybe I would have if you hadn't shown me another way. You taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction, on your terms, not theirs." He kissed her hair. "Speaking of reconstruction, the house is finished. Maybe we should invite Gregory and Tate over for dinner." She laughed. "Let's not push it. Professional respect is one thing, friendship is another." That had become her mantra, one step at a time. She had turned betrayal into triumph, not by crushing her enemies, but by reshaping the field they played on. When the downtown project neared completion, under budget and ahead of schedule, the press hailed it as a symbol of new beginnings. Waverly's consulting firm stood at the heart of it, her influence undeniable. 1 year to the day after Tate's cruel text, her phone buzzed with a new message, this time from Tate himself. Quote, "Thank you for your support on the promotion. I won't let you down." She showed it to Karen, who raised a brow. "Are you going to reply?" She thought for a long moment, then typed, quote, "Make sure you don't. Some gifts can't be returned." As she hit send, the symmetry struck her. 1 year ago, Tate's text had tried to break her. Today, his text acknowledged the distance he still had to climb. Revenge, she realized, was not about destruction. True power was the ability to destroy and choosing instead to build, not reacting to cruelty, but